So I want to talk about the location of sources. One of the first things in almost all of my courses that have a methods thread, which means almost every course I teach, is how to locate sources. You cannot repeat this often enough, and in fact in your courses, regardless of your discipline, all across the arts, humanities, social sciences, commerce, law, whatever it is, you should be giving explicit marks for practicing methods that are fundamental, and you should be modeling those methods and making sure that they're built into the coursework. So I follow my normal model with the synchronous discussion posts when I'm doing this. It's one of the first topics we teach, and the first thing I ask students to do is to make some notes about their own process, how they search for stuff, usually using digital tools these days because that's their first port of call. Optionally, you could make this a slightly bigger piece of work by asking them to actually search online for stuff on a particular topic. And if you really want to stretch it, you could ask them to record themselves doing that and use a talk aloud protocol to explicitly say what they're doing at the various stages of the process. Doesn't have to be very long. 5 minutes is plenty. It's difficult. It's a big ask, particularly for people who have not previously gone through this sort of work where they make their own process explicit. Indeed, for a lot of academics, it's difficult. So anyway, you get them to identify where they are in terms of their skills at locating sources. Then you ask them to read the research. Give the class 3 or 4 research papers, let each person pick 1 or 2, assign them at random, whatever method you want of assigning readings. Break big classes into small groups, as I often say. There's a lot of literature out there on how college students locate and search for sources online. There's been a great deal of research on it. So ask them then, the second part of their first posting or their first stage in this exercise is to ask them to compare what they see in the literature, in the research on this, with their own experience. Post that in the discussion forum, share that. You'll find if you look for articles on this, the research is remarkably consistent on student search strategies, and you'll find it's depressing, but we're working to improve that. Then in the second half of the week, I ask them to review all the other posts that have been made and look for common ground, shared issues, shared problems, common insights. I'm asking them to try and, having explored the readings, now bring the points from the readings together, move towards some sort of a consensus. Then in the end, if we're doing this in a face-to-face class every week, when they come back in, we'll use the discussion to bring things together and try and resolve and come up with some bullet points of what we've learned from it and what work we need to do and what work they need to do to improve their search skills. If we're doing it wholly online, then I will do that gathering as a link piece to the next week's work. Some things will come out of this, and depending on what readings that you use to discuss and look at their search strategies, you will find that they will come up with common problems like search keywords, how to build advanced searches in various search engines. And one that comes up as well is, once you've found stuff, how to evaluate it. And all of those are things which, in the next couple of weeks of any given class, as they refine the research on whatever topic we're working on, will be things that we have to address. So this topic, this exercise in how to locate sources, naturally raises some of the subsequent parts of the research process that we need to work at as we move through that process of research to analysis and then to the various different forms of writing that will be used to share the research later in the semester or the term. I cannot repeat often enough that this process needs to be explicitly baked into the coursework for as many modules or courses as people teach. It's also important that you work with librarians and that you make sure your students take the class that the librarians offer in these methods and have the induction to the sources in their local library, but do not just pass it off as a single once-off thing to the library staff to do. You need to build it in and make it part of the everyday routine. It's like running. You have to train every day. You can't just jump up and run a marathon without consistently doing the work on a regular basis. And research skills is just like that. You have to train at them throughout every module and revise and develop and build them up.